Well, Louis, it's definitely a historic declaration from President Trump expected today in Washington. It is a big break from previous administration, but U.S. officials have hinted that it could be very symbolic in a sense. It won't affect the questions of sovereignty over the city. It won't affect final status talks, and it won't affect the status of Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount, key issues here. But definitely in the region, it is seen as a slap to the Palestinians. As you know, Louis, Jerusalem holds a very special place in the Arab narrative. It is revered by the Palestinians. So what is meant as a symbolic move by Washington, fulfilling a campaign promise for Donald Trump, could turn to be very disruptive on the ground. It could also deliver an early death blow to his peace plan. So we are awaiting what the U.S. president will say tomorrow, his language, his tone, and what this means for the peace process. At the same time, the move is not as intrusive, say, as installing cameras, for example, at Al-Aqsa Mosque. So the reaction that we could see to it, for example, Palestinian factions have called already for 3 days of rage. It could be short-lived and temporary.
But do you think do you think there's a risk that it goes beyond that 3 days of rage, that this is actually the beginning of a longer uprising?
It will depend what the president will say tomorrow, what kind of language he will reassure the Palestinians with. If this is seen as a big transformation of the situation in Jerusalem, yes, this might very well drag on and turn into an uprising. If assurances are given on the peace process to Mr. Abbas and the Palestinian Authority, things could move on, and this could be just kept as a symbolic moves. As you said, countries in the Gulf, around the Middle East, and in Europe have warned against this move, but the U.S. has meant it. This president has meant it as a good gesture to Israel and to his base here in the United States to fulfill a very big campaign promise.
Okay, Joyce, very quickly, very briefly, do you think he's damaged his relations with leaders in the Arab world?
I think the U.S.-Arab relations are bigger than the issue we're seeing at hand today. Today, as you know, there are so many threats in the Arab world. There's so many conflicts, intelligence sharing between the U.S. and its Arab partners. So while this might leave a very bitter taste among Arab governments, they will have to find a way to move on and maintain the cooperation they have with the United States government.